All right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. Today, we are actually continuing our Missing Pieces series with another movie that's not a new one, although it's not that old. It's 2014. It is the Beach Boys Brian Wilson biopic, Love and Mercy. This one was brought to my attention by co-host Luella Chavez, and this is a movie that she had brought up back when she was on our Bohemian Rhapsody episode. God, is that a couple of years ago? That is crazy that I can talk about our podcast in terms of a couple of years ago. But yeah, we are in year 3, and that was a while back. But yeah, we had brought up Love and Mercy, and it was a movie I had never actually seen, even though it's always been on my radar as one that I know got a lot of great reviews back then. Really loved Paul Dano. I always wanted to see it, just never got around to it. And so when I started this Missing Pieces thing, she mentioned getting me to watch it and doing an episode, and I'm glad we did because I enjoyed the movie quite a bit and we had a great little conversation about it. So before we get into that, I do want to remind you to make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together on your podcast app of choice. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and you can also rate and review us on Podchaser, and I really, really encourage you to do that because Podchaser is doing a special promotion right now where for every review left on their site of any podcast, they're going to donate 25 cents to Meals on Wheels to help with the whole COVID-19 thing going on right now with people who need support and need supplies. So please go leave us a review on Podchaser. Not only do, we really appreciate it because we want to hear what you're thinking of the show, and we, want to build up those reviews and get a lot of people talking about us, but it's going to help support a great cause. So go to Podchaser, Piecing It Together, leave us a review. We would really appreciate that. And of course, you can also follow us on all the other social medias at Piecing Pod. So let's jump into this conversation about Love and Mercy. All right, so joining us again, it's been a while, but we've got Luella Chavez back on the show. How's it going, Luella?
It's going good, really good.
Yeah, we're surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these strange times?
Oh, I'm totally basic, and I joined TikTok.
Perfect. That's kind of like my barometer for how bad things have gotten. If I join TikTok, I know that I'm having problems in my life over here. I mean, it's great for people who have fun little things to do on there. I've seen a couple of yours and they're great. But I do not think it's the right move for me. Let's put it that way.
I actually, prior to joining, I was kind of in the same boat, thinking like, oh God, like another thing I'm gonna have to have or feel obligated to do. But my son was the one that actually encouraged me. He's like, no, I think you'd really like it, and I think you'd do well on it.
Well, I'd say so far so good. You should keep doing them because they're pretty funny, the things you've been
thank
posting.
you.
I, of course, don't have TikTok, but I see the reposts on Twitter and whatnot. But today we are continuing this Missing Pieces series that I'm doing here on Piecing It Together, and we're talking about a movie that you picked, and it's one that you actually had brought up on an earlier episode of Piecing It Together. It is the Brian Wilson biopic, Love and Mercy. This is a movie I hadn't actually seen. Is like one of my blind spots that I'd always kind of wanted to and just never gotten around to it. What made you pick this one?
Well, because when all this happened and I knew you couldn't go to the theater anymore, I was like, hey, you know what? Are you planning on watching anything that you haven't seen before? Because I remember you saying you did not see this movie, and I just think it's a really good movie. And so I was like, hey, are you doing any other movies that you haven't seen streaming? And you should check this out.
Yeah, it's about time, and I am trying to fill in a lot of those kind of movies, especially with this series, but then just in general, just sitting around at home. I mean, I haven't, like we were talking before we started recording, I haven't exactly just been sitting around. I've been doing all kinds of stuff while I'm stuck at home. But one of the things I'm doing is trying to fill in these blind spots. And yeah, Love and Mercy is something I had never seen. I always wanted to. I'm actually a big Paul Dano fan.
Hmm.
I think he is fantastic and he's great in this. And I mean, come on, John Cusack's awesome. So it's definitely something that's been on my radar, and I just kind of never got around to it. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it, and we'll get into that more as we're talking puzzle pieces and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm glad you brought this one up, and I'm glad I finally watched it. And let's get into some puzzle pieces. What do you have for your first puzzle piece for Love and Mercy?
Okay, so I think the first thing that I thought of was Walk the Line because of the relationship with the dad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like a lot more, but that was a big thing just because how critical and I don't even know how to describe it. It's just very sad and unfortunate,
Sure.
and in both situations, it seemed as though they both wanted some sort of validation from the dad, or just like that moment, or one just like the one time for the dad to give some sort of approval. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just really sad because it doesn't ever really seem like it happens for either of them.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think no, absolutely. That's a great first piece to kick it off with, and I'm just gonna jump in and combine onto that one. And I had put down Ray as my music biopic puzzle piece to use, and I think combining the two, you've got a lot of those kind of. And this is going to sound negative, but like those music biopic tropes that we've come to expect from most of these movies. They were, of course, parodied so well in Walk Hard,
Yeah.
but it does it really well in this one. I think the story, and I think it's on the strength of the performances is really why we're able to, see these things as something that's been done before in practically every music biopic, but then it still just seems to work and you still really, feel for this character.
Right, right.
Yeah. And and yeah, I mean those cliches in the music biopics, we kind of laugh about them. I was actually a little surprised when I was looking up some reviews on Love and Mercy because it seems like this kind of format has kind of taken a hit in recent years, like we've talked about up until much more recently in the last couple of years, where some of them are getting good reviews. I kind of would have expected this to have gotten less than favorable reviews because of those cliches, but it actually did connect with a lot of critics as well as audience when it came out in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, I you can't if it's part of the story, it's part of the story.
Exactly.
I mean, I get that it's probably it obviously is a popular obstacle for,
Hmm.
or if you wanna call it that, challenge. I don't know how you wanna phrase it or what you would describe it as, but, I mean, I think that for a lot of artists, there's always gonna be some sort of naysayer that it doesn't think that, um, whatever we're doing creatively is worthwhile, you know?
Yeah,
And
and it's
and
usually the parent.
yeah, yeah, because they want you to be an accountant or something, I don't know. But,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, you can't yes, it's a trope, but I mean, it's obviously something that, uh, gets somebody creative moving in some sort of way. It's probably why a lot of these people reach that level of greatness, you know?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. So I will, even though Ray was my first puzzle piece, I'll go on to another one since we kind of combine those two together. My next piece is the weird Todd Haynes Bob Dylan biopic, I'm Not There, where a bunch of different actors all play Bob Dylan in different forms, different versions of his persona. And to be honest, I don't even remember if I ever actually saw this movie, but the strange, unconventional way of approaching the biopic. And of course, in Love and Mercy, we're getting these two different time periods with two different actors who really have very different approaches to the performance. And of course, it's different time periods, different ages, so they're going to be a little different. But I mean, John Cusack is kind of John Cusack, and Paul Dano is doing kind of a very different thing than John Cusack is doing in this. But they're both doing it in a way that is so, so interesting and so easy to watch. And it's just, they're both really great characters, even though they're quite different from one another. And that's why it made me think of that unique approach that they used in I'm Not There.
Well, it's interesting. I did a little deep diving, and one of the screenwriters did both.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't see the other movie, I'm Not There either, or I know for a fact I haven't. But but yeah, that's cool that you picked up on that.
Right on. Yeah, and I think it's an interesting approach to not necessarily have to tie the performances together so directly. Like, I mean, these artists are so larger than life, and they do have these different kind of phases in their lifetime that it makes sense that they'd be kind of separated by performance style.
Well, the other thing too, though, is the level of trauma that he had experienced.
Sure.
I mean, it was kind of like a different person at that point when he is already involved with the Paul Giamatti character, Gene.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they couldn't spend too much time on that, and he probably doesn't have a very clear recollection of his experiences to get him from that get him from point A to point B, because I mean, you can only imagine. And I don't even have really a puzzle piece that addresses, I don't have a puzzle piece as far as what an inspiration in terms of this whole Munchausen by proxy aspect of the movie.
Right.
Or story, I should say.
That's true. There probably is a specific movie that we could have used for that.
I know. I kept kind of racking my brain a little bit, trying to think of what could have. I could not think of anything. I'm sure that there's obviously a big puzzle piece we're both missing.
Yeah. Yeah. We're a little loopy here. But...
I know. I mean, come on.
I think we're digging in deep though. We're doing the work. We're getting some good pieces in here. What do you have for your next piece though?
Okay. So my next piece would be, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a movie called Adam.
I don't think I know it.
Really? Oh, okay. So it's with Hugh Dancy and Rose Byrne. And Hugh Dancy has Asperger's, and he starts dating Rose Byrne.
Okay.
So the John Cusack portion when he's with Elizabeth Banks really, really reminds me of that movie. The performance, and what's interesting is, so the Gene character diagnosed him as paranoid schizophrenic, which they then said was false, and towards the end, and but they didn't say what his real diagnosis was. They just said they correctly diagnosed him, and he's doing better now. But they never said what it actually was. So I'm really curious. I mean, that's two completely different things. One's a mental disorder and one's a development disorder.
Sure.
But the mannerisms are the same.
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't heard of the movie, but that makes total sense though. And it is curious that they don't specifically tell you about that. But I guess that there's plenty more to the story to be discovered. There's probably a good documentary or something that maybe dives into a little bit more of that about what actually went on.
Yeah, I'm sure that's just an entire story within itself. So that's why they didn't like dive too deep into it.
Yeah, and it's funny too how and I should say I was going to mention this earlier. I didn't. I've never really been a Beach Boys guy, and I feel like I should because a lot of the music is so good. But despite not like knowing the music that well, I feel like I've known about Brian Wilson, about all these things he's gone through, and so it's like there's so much of it out there, but it's still there's so many like little pieces that you just don't know unless you dig deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but now I'm like, now you need to watch Adam, and then we need to do another episode.
There you go. Filling in all these little pieces. I love it. I love it. All right, well, I'll go with another puzzle piece here, and I don't know, this one might be a little obvious, but I was thinking of Martin Scorsese's The Aviator, about another kind of reclusive genius who hides away and is kind of slowly losing grip, of course, for different reasons. But, it's also another, excellent performance, of course, with Leonardo DiCaprio and The Aviator. But I think that there's some parallels to be made there, though, about, disappearing from the world for long periods of time, and the rumors that circulate about the person and, what's going on with them, and getting a glimpse into what it might have actually been like for that person as they were, away from the spotlight.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I've never seen The Aviator.
Ooh, good movie to watch. Definitely watch that one.
Okay, now that's on my list.
Nice. Yeah, no, Aviator is a great movie. One of my friends just called it the last great Martin Scorsese movie. I disagree. I think pretty much all late era Scorsese has been excellent, but that's another story for another another podcast. So what do you got for your next piece then?
Okay, this one's silly, but we need to add some humor, right? So all the parts with when he's starting to date Melinda, Elizabeth Banks, and Paul Giamatti has to keep being there, it reminded me of Stuck on You.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when Matt Damon's like dating the Asian girl May or whatever, and she's like, "Why does your brother always have to be there? Like why is he always there?"
That is fantastic. Paul Giamatti. I could actually I could watch that movie. Paul Giamatti and John Cusack just being stuck together, and that is fantastic. It's so funny, and that actually goes so well with my next puzzle piece because I only have one more, and it is also a kind of a silly, ridiculous one. But that is also about the Paul Giamatti character. I would say my only real negative of the movie is his character kind of goes a little too far at times. It's just a little over the top. And it almost reminded me a little bit of Ben Stiller in Happy Gilmore as the evil caretaker character, just screaming at Adam Sandler's poor little grandma, And,
yeah.
And so the fact that I even thought of that to me means that Giamatti maybe could have pulled it down just a notch, a little bit in the performance.
Like you're thinking of that burger scene, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. Just straight up screaming at him. And I mean, of course, that probably is what he was like. But it was just like, oh my God, are you serious with this guy?
And maybe not that particular time, but you know that had, yeah, like you said, it kind of had to have happened in that, like that to that level for him to have been so afraid of him. That makes me so sad.
I know, it's fucking crazy. Like what a lunatic that guy was. But I guess that does happen. It's especially crazy to imagine it with somebody with that star power, that amount of money, all that kind of stuff, for them not to be able to get out of that kind of a cycle. But I guess, with the abuse that he had, suffered, and as well as, the deteriorating mind state, it's like, I guess it makes it hard to get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sad and so strange. But all right, do you have another puzzle piece?
Okay, so it's not actually a movie, but I thought it was kind of interesting because um the whole idea of okay, so my next piece would be like the Monkees' career, because they
Hmm.
started out with such a squeaky clean image. They were a manufactured boy band, not obviously not the Beach Boys, but
Hmm.
then the Monkees tried to like do what like all the Disney girls do. Like then they tried to make that movie Head and try to like
Hmm.
just do something so completely like to change their image. And I just thought it was interesting because in their minds that's like what they felt like was really going on and stuff. And it's funny to me because I think that the Beach Boy yes, like it's funny that you're not a fan because or and I know so many people that don't have a whole lot of respect for their music, but when you watch this movie and the way that they integrate so many, or he integrates so many different things, and is such a musical genius.
Yeah.
Uh, it, it to I know it's an adaptation of what was happening, but like to see the way his mind was working and like all these different things he was doing and they just worked out. And even in the studio everybody's like, are you sure this is right? Like I'm reading this here and all that. um but yeah, but on the surface, like when you listen to the albums prior to like Pet Sounds, it's like very like bubblegummy and fun and cupcakes and fluff. I
Sure.
think is kind of like what people feel and see when they hear that music. And it's really, but it goes so much deeper than that, and that's what's so interesting to me about it all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as a musician myself, like just some of those scenes of, watching him, produce that album, it's pretty inspiring just to see somebody just like, no, the ideas that I have, I'm just telling you, I think they're gonna work. Even if they don't technically make sense in any kind of traditional musical sense. It's like sometimes you just want to try some stuff because in your head it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, cool. Well, great. Yeah, definitely the monkeys, definite parallel there. But we will do the finished puzzle and then we'll take a look forward at any movies we think Love and Mercy may have itself influenced. But let's start with the finished puzzle, which included Walk the Line, Ray, I'm Not There, Adam, The Aviator, Stuck on You, Happy Gilmore, and The Career of the Monkeys. So I'll let you start with any movies that have come since this one in 2014 that you think it might have maybe inspired a little bit.
Well, the reason we're here is because when I first guested on the pod was because of Bohemian Rhapsody, and when I saw
Absolutely.
that, Love and Mercy was one of my pieces.
Absolutely. And, now that I've seen Love and Mercy, I mean, it's so clear, especially those scenes of making the music.
Yes.
All that experimental stuff going on in the studio, just trying all these crazy things that just don't seem to make sense, but they come together into something that, is just so amazing and really hadn't been heard before. And just getting into the mind of that, like, just musical genius creator, is it's really done well in both movies, and interestingly, very differently in both movies, but it still is the same kind of a process.
Yeah, yeah, I and I said this about Bohemian Rhapsody, and I loved those parts that were in the studio when they're experimenting and they're trying all these things, because you really kind of feel like a fly on the wall. Like you feel like you're there. You feel like you're part of that moment. Like you're
Hmm.
excited and you're like obviously not to the level of of being there, but it's electric. Like
Yeah.
I love it. And this is why I love film, because it can evoke these types of like emotions and
Yeah.
feelings. It's so exciting. Like and you almost get a little sad too, because you're like, damn, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
FOMO.
Well, at least you get to kind of be there while watching the movie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit. I'll add into that. I had Bohemian Rhapsody down, of course, as well, and I'll also add in Rocket Man, the Elton John movie, which
I have that on
also,
mine too. I have that on
yeah,
here too. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, also getting into the unconventional aspect of doing a music biopic. Like, we talked a little earlier about the cliches and the tropes of these kinds of movies, but, taking them and trying to add in some, new ways of doing it. And, Rocket Man also has the disapproving father, Rocket Man
Mm-hmm.
also has all that stuff, but then it also, finds new ways and exciting ways, turning it into a musical and all that stuff. It's taking the music biopic and trying to do something new with it. And I'm sure in the process of making Rocket Man, Love and Mercy, the idea of, going back and forth in the timelines with two different actors, that is a unconventional, unique way of approaching the whole thing. And so I'm sure looking back at other movies like this that used a different approach, even though a lot of the story beats are still there, is something that was being talked about.
Yeah. I also have one more thing.
Sure.
And I thought I was kind of crazy because, well, in preparation for this, I did rewatch it. I didn't like sit down and wholeheartedly get into it, and I was like, am I crazy for thinking or feeling this? But I was thinking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Nice.
Just the feel of the whole 60s vibe and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, am I crazy for making this connection? And then I thought a little harder about it, and I thought, well, there is that whole Charles Manson, uh, Dennis Wilson connection. So no, I don't think I
Sure.
am.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, the party scenes in Love and Mercy at the house were very, very styled, very similar to the scene where you're first introduced to Sharon Tate at that party in Once Upon a
Mm-hmm.
Time in Hollywood. Those party scenes, like you could stitch them together and they would look like the same party practically.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
but yeah, so definitely the styling though of that era of Hollywood are captured in very similar ways, so I could see that absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I did think I was a little crazy. I was like, it's kind of a stretch.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think it works. Solid piece right there. All right, cool. Well, do you have any other closing thoughts about Love and Mercy before we wrap it up?
I feel like I should. I feel like everybody needs to see this movie. You'll have a whole entirely new appreciation for the Beach Boys if you're not a fan already.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I already was a fan. And then, yeah, and if you start to look a little like deeper into their catalog, you just like see that, yeah, he was the driving force of almost everything they did. Because I started Googling when when I had the movie on. And he even wrote all of the original songs on their Christmas album. He
Hmm.
co-wrote them, so Little Saint Nick.
There you
That's a
go.
fun one. But he had nothing to do with Kokomo, which was like my favorite Beach Boys song.
Jeez. There's a whole sequel there on what happened with Kokomo. Let's watch that. Right on.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about it. I'm sure I do. I don't know.
I think we covered it pretty well, and yeah, I'm glad we watched it though. Definitely a good movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and so I think that about does it. I don't remember if we were doing this last time you were on the show, but I have my guests now to wrap it up. Recommend another movie they watched recently. Is there something you watched recently you would like to recommend?
Let me think. I know, like, yes, I know that I'd been listening to some of your more recent episodes, and I know that you do this now, and I was trying to think of something. It's it's all a blur since quarantine.
Probably watched 100 movies and they're all just one blur, just all put together.
Well, I don't think I've watched any honestly, I don't know that I've watched any actual movies or new movies since this all happened. I'm trying to think. I know I've rented something, but I can't. I've just been watching a lot of stuff I've already seen 1,000 times, or I've watched shows, but nothing I'm like really binging or loving on right now.
All right. Well, then.
What about you? What about you? Besides,
what have I been watching? I've been kind of catching up on a couple series. I'm watching Devs on Hulu. Great show.
Okay.
So yeah, we don't ever really cover TV shows on Piecing It Together, but if we did, I'd probably be talking about Devs on an episode soon. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know.
We'll see. You have Hulu. So do you ever watch that show Into the Dark?
I haven't. I think I heard of it.
It's one of those. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a Blumhouse production.
Okay.
And they're like mini movies. Every episode's like an hour and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and they're all like kind of holiday themed. So like there's like a Valentine's one, there's New Year's ones, there's like Christmas ones. Yeah, so it's interesting. They come out with like a new one every month. I didn't watch the most recent one, but I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's this one in an elevator for the most recent Valentine's episode, and I feel like I'm watching somebody's demo reel.
Well, that's
the way
fun.
that the dialogue is and the way the actors are, and it's not in a bad way. It's not in a bad way. That sounds bad, but I don't know how else to describe it. I'm like, because some of these scenes, I'm like, wow, this would be a really cool like scene for a demo reel. Like,
so it sounds like you're at a 48-hour film project thing or something.
You know what? It kind of feels like that. Not that I've ever watched one of those, but I've been in one.
Yeah.
I think we've all participated in that if you're in the movie industry out here.
A ton of them for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I would check it out. They're not all of them are gems.
Yeah.
But I would check that out because it's something to do, I guess. I don't know.
There you go. That's exactly what we're looking for. Things to do. All right. Well, thank you as always for being here, Luella. And where can people find your stuff?
You always ask me that. I don't know. Okay, well, I'm on TikTok now.
There you go. Do we just search for your name on there? Or what's,
you know what? You can
happening?
Because I just do everything with my name. Like, you'll figure it out. Like, I'm easy to find. I'm so easy to find. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on... What else is there? I'm on Snapchat, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah. And so, yeah. And I'm like, just kind of like right before this all happened, I was doing open mics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like my new thing. I'm just trying to do a lot of writing comedy and stuff. And I do need to be recording my own podcast as I'm sitting here on somebody else's. Yeah. I'm always creating content though. You'll find me.
I'm Christy.
And this is Josh.
And we are The Mountains and the Sea.
It's a podcast about Prince and his vast musical output.
We look at each and every Prince album.
And ancillary material like fashion, videos, related artists, B-sides, remixes, outtakes.
We choose a high, the mountain, a low, the sea, and a time capsule.
Yeah, those are her dumb rules, not mine.
Josh is a Prince superfan and has been since long before I met him.
That's right, and I pulled Christy over to the purple side with my wit and my charm.
The music helped. Join us every other week, anywhere you get your podcasts, and happy purple listening, friends.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Luella Chavez about Love and Mercy. Good movie. If you never saw it, if you're like me and it's just one that slipped through the cracks, make sure to go back and watch it because it's a good one. So that does it for today. I want to remind you, as always, please make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. Join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, they're doing a promotion right now. They're going to donate 25 cents to Meals on Wheels for every review left on the site for any podcast. And so why not take a minute out and go leave us a review? That would be awesome if you did that. We'd love it, and you'd be helping this great cause. So go to Podchaser, look for Piecing It Together, and leave us a review. 5 stars would be nice. We'd really appreciate that. But let us know what you think of the show. We always want to make this a better show for you all. So thank you, as always, for listening and for continuing to support the show. So we've got a lot more Piecing It Together coming your way. We've got both regular episodes on newer movies, and we've got these Missing Pieces episodes on slightly older movies. We've got a whole bunch coming your way. There's some advanced episodes available over on our Patreon, but we're just going to keep filling this feed with more and more episodes. There's no reason not to do this. We're stuck in the house, but might as well keep podcasting, right? Also got more episodes of our other podcasts here on the All Points West network. We got more Bird Road, more Awesome Movie Year, Entre Dos, and All Rice No Beans. So we're trying to continue them as much as we possibly can in these very strange, uncertain times, but lots of podcasts coming your way. And another thing coming your way, you know, I know with podcasts, a lot of people don't always listen to the end of episodes. I know some of you don't listen to the ends of these Piecing It Together episodes, and I don't blame you. There's so much content out there to listen to. I know once you get through the meat of it all, you know, just turn it off. It's done. It's finished. Fine. So I want to reward my wonderful listeners who do actually listen to the ends of the episodes. I always, of course, play a piece of my music. And I have something that I haven't really announced on any social medias or anything like that. I just released this new album, Beater Original Motion Picture Soundtrack, but I am in the middle of quarantine just like everybody else, just sitting in my house, just filling my time with as much stuff as I can. And I just started on April 1st working on new music for a new album that I am planning on releasing really freaking soon. I am kind of planning on trying to finish the whole thing in this 1 month. I started on April 1st. I already have 7 songs basically almost complete. I'm going to go back to each song and do like a final pass on each of them, like touching them up and adding and changing little bits and pieces here and there, but 7 basically ready to go songs. I'm planning on getting to 15 songs within these 30 days and then releasing the freaking thing. It's crazy. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm here in the house and why not, right? Let's make a whole nother album, release another album of 100% new content. Nothing that was started before April 1st. This is brand new quarantine music. So I'm going to play you a little sample of what I've been working on. Why not that? You know, this isn't necessarily complete, doesn't have a title, but it is one of the new tracks that you can expect on this new album that will be coming out probably in the next month or 2. I don't really know. I don't have a release plan. I don't have a title. I don't have anything, but I'm making it. I made this one yesterday and I'm going to play it for you right now. So this is new music, brand new music, as new as can possibly be music from me. And it will be on an album coming real soon.
and all points west.